So, I just rewatched the Avengers. It's one of those movies that I loved, but I didn't really rewatch like most other movies that I've watched. Like the X-Men series. I rewatch those every now and then, or the Tobey Maguire movies, or the Mark Webb movies with Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. I rewatch them all the time, but this movie was one of the rare movies that I watched one time, and one time only, and I got it like, I think a year after it came out. It's a really good movie, and it's probably one of my favorite Marvel movies ever, like superhero movies, period, but not my favorite, because there's other movies like X-Men 2 and Logan and Amazing Spider-Man 2 that are all really good. So, yeah, this is a really good movie though, but there's a lot of stupid shit in it, and there's a lot of stuff that they just completely forget about. Like, okay, in the Loki scene, I remember it being cooler when I first watched it, by the way. I remember it being longer too, like Loki when he first arrived and beats up all those S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, but it wasn't. Well, anyway, it was, shorter than I remember, and he takes 3 people, right? He takes Hawkeye, Eric Selvig, and then he takes one guy while Nick Fury's getting the Tesseract in the suitcase. But we never see that guy again. And every time they mention Eric and Hawkeye, they don't even mention that there was another guy taken. They're like, man, fuck him. He didn't matter. We just wanted to show how cool Loki was and that he can do 3 people, not just 2. I mean, later Hawkeye, like, blows up part of the helicarrier, or whatever they call it in MCU. I don't think they call it the helicarrier. They might. And yeah, he blows up part of it. Hulk gets angry for not a very good reason. And then Loki, like, mind controls someone off screen and has them guard the door. Phil Coulson knocks him out. And instead of just, like, you know, silently taking him out, he just does it very loudly. And then announces that he's there before loading the gun. Well, he doesn't really have to load it. He just pulls the trigger, and then it takes like 2 minutes before it shoots. So he should just silently did that and then like pulled the trigger and waited for it to go off, but nope. Then, like, there's the whole thing of Nick Fury explaining that if he like makes one scratch on the glass, the thing just falls. They don't say anything about him, like, having to press a button, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I just rewatched it today after, like, not watching it since 2013. But, yeah, I'm pretty sure when I rewatched this, I mean, this is a really long movie. I don't think he said anything about pressing a button to make the thing fall. But he scratches it, the thing, like, unclamps and is about to fall. But it doesn't actually fall until Loki presses the button. Also, like, the whole thing with, like, Nick Fury, like, taking the things, don't you think that at least someone saw it? Like, if you actually thought about it, you realized how fake those cards being bloody were. He gets stabbed, like, almost near his throat. Like, it's really high up where he gets stabbed. So there's no reason for the cards to get bloody in his jacket. So yeah, he just throws them on the cards. He stole a dead person's property. And then he just threw them on the table. And then he was like, oh, they just needed a motivation, so I stole a dead person's property and pretended that he got blood on them. when it was really me just wiping the blood on it. There was also, I completely forgot about the Other in this movie. You know, Other, like one of Thanos' minions was in this movie. I'm pretty sure he gets killed off in Guardians of the Galaxy 1 by Ronan, and Thanos gives no fucks. But yeah, the Other was in this movie for like 3 scenes. His voice is kind of like Darkseid's. But yeah. This was a really good movie, and I found it really entertaining. It's probably one of the better ones of Hulk. I'm not a big Hulk fan, but they definitely made Hulk really comic accurate in this movie, and Age of Ultron was probably the ones he's best in. Then after that, just pretty bad. And I love how everyone was surprised and fucking, what was it, Endgame, that he talked, though. I mean, not Endgame, fucking Thor Ragnarok. People are surprised that he was talking in his Hulk form. Yet he did say puny god in Avengers. I get that's only 2 words, and he was speaking full-on sentences in Thor Ragnarok, but some people were just genuinely surprised that he talked. They were just surprised that he talked. Not about the sentences, just that he talked. And I honestly loved Loki in this movie. And this is one of the movies that the humor doesn't feel too forced in the MCU movies. Like, it just makes sense when they make jokes. And there's plenty of drama in it, and the arguments are fair and not unreasonable like most of the MCU movies. They're like, hey, I was fine, I was calm, I wasn't hurting anybody, and then you make me come here, and you have a cage ready to kill me in case something bad happens. And then Cap doesn't really have any good arguments, so he tries to make some good points. Some of the lines felt like they just didn't know how to say it. Like the Iron Man line, where Nick Fury starts lying. Iron Man says something about lying. That line felt a little forced. And the way Loki talks before he gets attacked by Hulk, that one felt forced. And it just felt like they really didn't know what to say, and that's why they had the gun go off on Loki in the Phil Coulson's death scene. Because I really couldn't figure out what he was going to say next. And this movie has a lot of Black Widows past, but get this, it came out in 2012, and they're finally making a Black Widow movie in 2020. I honestly thought when I first watched this movie, a Black Widow movie was going to come out, like, after this movie, because it just felt like they were setting one up, but no, they didn't. And once again, this is one of those movies that isn't too connected to other Marvel movies, so they do talk about other Marvel movies. They're like, oh yeah, remember in Iron Man 1 back in 2008? Remember the end credits scene? If you did stick in after, if you stayed tuned after the fucking end credits. Or remember this about the Incredible Hulk movie? They'll only watch that once, and that was even longer ago. And I don't remember much about it. I remember the villain was Abomination, and that Ross was in it. And then they didn't bring Ross back into the MCU until 2016. Yet they haven't made him Red Hulk for some reason. So yeah, this was a pretty good movie, but I don't know. Like, seriously though, at some points it's kind of stupid, but I really love this movie. Oh, the one thing that I almost forgot to talk about. Eric Selvig and his fucking, hey, I'm mind controlled by Loki, but I figured out a way to destroy this. I knew what I was doing. So, if Eric made like a self-destruction device because he kind of knew what he was doing while he was mind controlled by Loki, then does that mean that Hawkeye knew he was willingly killing people? Or that he knew what Loki was doing to the one guy's eye? Like, he knew all this? Though then they're all later, in a later scene. It's before the whole Eric and the destruction device thing. But there's a scene where Hawkeye's like, oh, how many did I kill? So he actually doesn't know how many he killed. So that ruins that theory. So it doesn't really make much sense. And that's all I have to say about this movie. I really enjoy it though. So there's that. Though, actually, one more thing. Why didn't they give Hawkeye a costume? They gave Cap a costume, they gave Thor a costume, they gave Iron Man a costume, they gave Hulk a costume. They even give Black Widow a costume that's sort of like her costume from the comics. But then Hawkeye, they're like, nope. Well, that's all I have to say, so bye.